I'm Ree, welcome back to my channel, Mummy of Four Does Disney. In today's video, I am sharing with you everything that you need to do before you head to Walt Disney World, Florida. We are traveling in January 2022 from the UK to Florida, and I've got to be honest, the amount of planning and prep that you have to do before a Disney holiday can be quite overwhelming. So I have been wading through all of the prep for the last few months, and I thought I would make this video to give you all the shortcuts and all the information you need in one place so you don't have to struggle like I did. Now, it goes without saying, with the world as it is at the moment, things are changing, certainly from a COVID point of view, on almost a day-to-day basis. So you need to check before you travel if anything has changed, specifically with regulations. Most of the information in this video should apply for years to come, but just as a little disclosure, at the time of editing this video, the information is as accurate as I can make it, but please do check with your travel provider for any updates and changes before your trip. So the first thing you're going to need to do, obviously, is book your trip. And you've got a choice of doing this in separate bits and pieces or as more of a package. Now, we actually booked everything directly with Disney. I have got a video that I filmed just after booking that trip that explained exactly what we booked. So let's start with the flights. If you are traveling into Orlando and you want to fly direct, you need to look at British Airways or Virgin Atlantic. There are other airlines where you can do a fly drive and fly slightly further away and then drive to Orlando. Even if you decide you want to fly directly into Orlando, you need to decide if you want to do direct flights or indirect flights, which can be a little bit cheaper, but there will be a stopover at another airport. We decided that traveling with 4 children, some of which have autism, the youngest of which is not yet 5, that we needed to do direct flights and we needed to fly directly into Orlando rather than doing fly drive, just to minimize the length of an already quite long journey. Between British Airways and Virgin, at the time I booked and the dates I booked, it was marginally cheaper to fly with British Airways, so that's who we've gone with. But really it is a case of fiddling around with your trip dates. I found that when I was putting in slightly different days, I was doing the same amount of days but moving the flights a day earlier or a day later. It was making the price fluctuate considerably, so it's well worth, if you've got a little bit of flexibility before booking annual leave, say, to have a little look at which dates are going to work out cheaper for your flights. The next thing to consider is accommodation. So the big question is, do you stay on-site or off-site? A lot of people I know are now choosing to stay off-site, as lots of the perks from staying on-site that used to exist no longer apply. If you're staying off-site, you need to decide whether it's going to be a hotel or self-catering. And then on-site, there are so many different options. We have decided to go for an on-site experience. It is our first trip as a family to Disney World, Florida. My first trip to Florida was in December 1991. I think I went once again a couple of years later, but I have not taken my children yet. So I really wanted them to have the full Disney experience, and we were looking for the ease of staying on site. We're staying in the Art of Animation, so not only is it full of all the Disney magic with the Nemo pool, and we're staying in a Lion King suite, and it's all going to be very exciting, but there's also the transportation we can utilize to get into the parks. So from the Art of Animation, there is a Skyline that will take us directly into Epcot and Hollywood Studios, and then there is a bus that will take us into the other parks. Art of Animation is considered to be a budget resort, so obviously with 6 of us traveling, that's kind of the option we've gone for to bring the price down as much as possible. But there is so much to consider. It's well worth having a look at not just information online, but vlogs of tours of these different places to see which one appeals to you. All the different on-site hotels have different themes. A lot of them are so beautiful. They all have different perks and very different price points. But I definitely recommend having a look at videos on YouTube of the various resorts just to get a feel for what they're really like, which is more than you can get from just looking on the website. Next thing you need to be organising is your park tickets. So at the time we booked, we paid for 7 days of park tickets for each of us, and those were upgraded to 14 days of park tickets. So for this reason, I've actually booked to stay for 15 nights. My original plan was to book for 10 days, but then when we were given these extra park tickets, and I guess that's kind of the point of it, to try and make you stay for longer and spend a little bit more money, but I've totally fallen for it. I didn't want to waste any of those park tickets. So by going for 15 nights, we're actually going to fly in on the travel day, and our first day of park days will be the following day, and then we will have 14 full days in the parks, and then on the very last day we won't do any parks, we will just travel home. So shop around for which options are going to be best for park tickets. We haven't actually booked any of the non-Disney Florida stuff, so we haven't booked Universal Studios, we haven't booked to do Cape Canaveral with all the rockets and things that I did actually go to when I was little. I know my husband would be quite keen to do that, but it's a bit of a, any of the other days we do, if we do Universal, if we do Cape Canaveral, then we'd have to give up a Disney day. So at the moment, not quite sure how I feel about that. Let me know if you've been to Florida more recently than I have, and you can let me know what you would do if you're in my position. So the next thing you're going to need to organise before you head to Disney are your passports. Now these may seem obvious, but I'm going to bring it up because I think we can all be a little bit guilty of thinking, yeah, my passport's fine, and then actually it doesn't have enough space left on it before it needs renewing before your trip. Now, we hadn't renewed passports for a good while, and I was pleasantly surprised at how easy the experience was to renew our UK passports this time around. My husband had a really straightforward renewal. He just had to go in and go into a booth in the post office, and he did the whole thing in there. They took his photo in there, and then he walked away with a text message on his phone, and his passport was already being done. It was really, really simple and straightforward. For the children's passports, they were a bit more complicated because we had to have their photos verified, but it wasn't like how you used 2 years ago where we had to sign the back of the photographs. We had chose a photo booth. You can choose to do them on your phone if you want, but we paid for them in a photo booth to make sure that they were going to be accepted. But it was one of those photo booths that's passport approved, and then it gave us a little code with the photographs. Those got uploaded to the website, and then rather than having to ask people in certain professions, like teachers or doctors or whatever, to sign the back of the photos to say that yes, they knew us for a certain amount of years and yes, this is a true likeness of the child, that was all done online. So it was really, really quick and easy and not as stressful and fiddly as I remember from doing it in previous times. So if you didn't know that was an option, you can still do the old paper way if you want to, but I'd highly recommend looking at the online version. It was so much quicker and far less stressful in my opinion. The next thing you're going to want to organise before your Disney holiday, and any holiday for that matter, is holiday insurance. I'd highly recommend just getting an annual package for holiday insurance that's going to cover you for all of your needs, and that way any trip that you go on, be it a little weekend break alongside your Disney trip, should be covered if you've chosen the right insurance package. But really do make sure you read the terms and conditions and it covers all of your needs. The next thing you're going to need to organise is the pre-flight compliance with the airline. So we're flying with British Airways, and I can share with you my experience with them. Obviously, if you're flying with Virgin or another airline, it may be slightly different. So for each passenger, and you need to set aside a bit of time for this if you've got a big family like I have, because obviously I had to do this 6 times over. I had to give our passport number, nationality, the government that issued our passport, confirm our full names, give the gender, the date of birth, the address while in the United States, so that would be Art of Animation for us, any green card or visa details if we had them, our telephone number, our email addresses, our secondary contact details, and a declaration. And I had to fill that out for each of the 6 passengers that are travelling in our party. Now, online check-in with the airline is actually 24 hours before. That's when it opens, and that's when I can organise the seats. Haven't done that yet. That is going to be featuring in the travel day vlog, because I will be doing that all on the way to the airport. And that brings me to the next thing you're going to need to organise for your trip to Florida, and that is how you're going to get to the airport in the UK. So your options are to drive to the airport and pay for airport parking at your airport, to use public transport, or to go for private airport transfers. Now, we have actually booked, because there are so many of us, a minibus to take us on a private airport transfer. The main reason, to be honest, that I've gone for this over driving ourselves is because we cannot physically fit all of the cases that we are going to be taking with us, and all of that will be coming up in pack with me videos and things, but all of the luggage that we need to take for 6 people will not physically fit in our car. So airport transfers will allow us to take the right luggage for our trip. The other thing you want to decide is, are you going directly up the day of your flights, or are you going to go up the night before? Now, we have chosen to stay in a Premier Inn the night before, just because if there's any delay, if we get stuck in traffic, we're not going to end up missing the flights. There is nothing more stressful than cutting it really fine for getting on flights, especially when we've got small children. We don't know how many toilet stops we're going to have to make. So going up the day before will give us that breathing space and also allow us to be a bit more rested before we get on the plane. So as we'll be traveling up the day before, this is why we'll be doing the online check-in in that travel day vlog, because we will be traveling during that 24-hour before the flight period. The next thing you're going to need to organise will be airport transfers the other end, from the airport in Florida to your accommodation. So your options here would be hiring a car. Obviously, if you're doing fly drive, then you will have organised a car with that. If you were staying off-site, then hiring a car is probably quite an attractive prospect. As we are staying on-site, I didn't want to be bothering with a car. So our options would be booking a private taxi or using the replacement for the Magic Express, which sadly is finishing at the end of December 2021 and not coming back. Now, the Magic Express was the free transportation from the airport in Orlando to the Disney accommodation. This is being replaced by a private company that is a paid-for service, and this is Mia's Connect. Now, Mia's Connect have the standard option with a few more stops on your route, or the express option, which you can pay a little bit more for. This is not a private service, but it is a more direct service than the standard option. You pop in your flight details on the Mia's Connect website, along with the number of people in your party and the bags, and that will show you the price that it will be for your party. I pop the details for how much I've had to pay on screen now. We did go for the express option, but again, because I don't know how well my children, especially the ones with autism or my youngest, are going to cope with the long flight, I really feel like we need to get to the accommodation as soon as possible so that we can start off our trip in the best moods we can, as fresh as possible. Something you're going to need to organise if you're heading into the United States for anywhere, not just Florida, is your ESTA visa. This is quite a detailed sort of questionnaire asking you for lots and lots of information about the intentions of your trip, whether you'll be staying with anyone, the address you'll be staying during your trip. You do have to pay a fee for this per person, and it needs to be done at least 72 hours before your trip, and it can take a little time. Ours were back very, very quickly the same day, but it can take a little time to be approved. So I would recommend doing these as soon as possible. You will need all your details of your trip, your passport numbers for everyone in your party. Really, this has taken me about half a day just to do all of the information for British Airways, the ESTA forms, and the buying all of the COVID tests, which I shall get to in a second. So those ESTA forms are quite detailed. They ask a lot of questions, including, do you have criminal record? Have you been to certain countries in the last few years? And do you have the plague? I mean, I hope nobody does. But there are lots and lots of questions, some of which seem quite unusual, but make sure you fill it all out and just get that done as soon as possible. Now, the next things you're going to need to organise before your Disney trip are your COVID compliance things. Now, if you're watching sometime in the future and this no longer applies, yay, I'm so glad that you're living in a time where we don't have to deal with this and you can skip to the next section in the timestamps. If you're still watching this in the not too distant future and COVID is still plaguing our lives and we're still living in the great unpleasantness, then just please make sure you check the information and make sure nothing has changed dramatically since the time I have edited this video. So for COVID compliance, I have downloaded the Verifly app, which has been recommended by British Airways, and I believe that Virgin use it too. And this is where you store all your proof of vaccinations. You'll upload your proof of negative testing. I shall go through all this in a second. So when you download the Verifly app, sign up. You will need to take a passport style photograph against a plain background without smiling, just in the same way you would for your passport. Confirm your email address and then add your trip. Now, most of the Verifly information, it will not let you access to add until 3 days before your flight. So at the time of filming this, it is more than 3 days until we fly. So I will include the information about exactly how that goes and how I find all that in the upcoming vlogs. Probably the travel day vlog, I would imagine, if not before. So the next thing you're going to need to make sure you've got is all of your vaccination proof. I can't actually upload this to the Verifly app yet, so I can't comment on how that's going to go, but we have already downloaded our COVID passes for both domestic and travel because I live in Wales and we need a COVID domestic pass for doing things like the cinema. I've got ours downloaded as a PDF and put into a folder along with everything. I've printed off everything, all the details of the accommodation, the flights, everything to take as a little backup. So even though I've got things stored on my phone, it's really worth having a hard copy of things just in case for some reason your phone is freezing while you're trying to check in somewhere. So I've got the PDF versions, I've got the QR code saved into our Apple wallets on our iPhones. So all of that information about our vaccinations, because you do have to be fully vaccinated to access the United States. As it stands at the moment, fully vaccinated means at least 2 weeks after your second jab. We've actually had our boosters as well. Whether the boosters will at some point in the future come in as part of being fully vaccinated, I can't comment. But as it stands at the moment, you have to have had your second jab to make you fully vaccinated at least 2 weeks prior to flying. So we've had that ages ago. We had that before we went on the Disney cruise in the summer of 2021. It's worth mentioning that at the moment, as long as under 18s are travelling with fully vaccinated adults, they don't currently need to be vaccinated, which is great, obviously, because at the moment, children under a certain age in the UK are not being offered. So 3 out of my 4 children are not vaccinated. My eldest has had his first vaccination, he's been invited for a second vaccination. So he's underway, but because he's under 18 and traveling with us as fully vaccinated adults, that is okay, he's allowed into the States. So the next thing you're going to need to organise will be all of your COVID tests. So this is a bit that I feel might change. This is the bit I'd really like you to check because I feel this has changed the most since we have been trying to book and organise this trip. So as it stands at the moment, you're required to take a test within 24 hours of boarding your flight to America. This can be a PCR test or an online video call witnessed lateral flow test. Now I debated which one to do. We decided to go with the witnessed lateral flow test because you can kind of log in, do the video call, we can have our lateral flow test witnessed and then it's done. We know there's no kind of sending off to a lab, so we're not going to be waiting on samples that have gone missing or anything. So that's why we went for that option. I opted to go with Prenetics purely because we already had accounts with them. They've already got all our details on file. They've already got myself and my husband's proof of vaccination and things. So I just figured it would be easier to do it that way. They were delivered next day delivery by DPD. Of the 3 sets of tests I require, 2 sets have been delivered. I do need to contact them about the 3rd one just to make sure that they are on their way. So the first set, all 6 of us need, it needs to be within 24 hours. So again, that's going to have to feature in our travel vlog because we will have left our house to travel to the airport the day before, so before the 24-hour window. So I was kind of hoping to do the lateral flow tests at home with a nice stable Wi-Fi, but it looks like it's going to have to be done en route or even when we get to the hotel near the airport. That is obviously a bit nerve-wracking because, as my husband pointed out, what happens if we get to the airport and our ride has left, our airport transfer's gone, and one of us comes back as positive? What happens then? So I am going to do our own lateral flows to make sure we're all healthy before we get into the airport transfers, so that I feel pretty confident that we're all going to pass the lateral flows when we get to the airport, or whether we do them en route. I don't quite know what to do with that yet. So make sure you subscribe to the channel so you don't miss the travel vlog and the whole rest of the vlog series for that matter, so that you can see how easy or not that whole process is. So the cost of the video witness lateral flow test from Prenetics at the time I bought them was £32 per person. The next set of tests you're going to need will be the tests 2 days before flying back to the UK. These are lateral flow tests required by everyone over the age of 12, and they can't be NHS ones, they've got to be ones that you purchase. So out of the 6 of us, 3 of us are over the age of 12, and those tests were £19 each from Prenetics when I bought them. Then the last set of tests are for all 6 of us. They're when we land in the UK. They've got to be taken within 2 days of getting back into the UK. And and we have to isolate until we get the results back, and the results obviously have to be negative. These tests, again, I've bought from Pronetics. We can't have these with the NHS, they've got to be private tests, and these have cost me £64 each. So obviously at the time of booking, none of this was actually required. So it has bumped a considerable amount onto our trip. Stay tuned to the end and I will discuss the whole why we're still going ahead with it and my thinking behind all that, because I've had a lot of questions. Are we still going to go ahead with it? And I'll address all of that at the end, so stay tuned to the end. So back to lovelier things, back to Disney. If you've skipped over all that horrible, nasty COVID stuff and you're here in the future, welcome back to the fun stuff. The next thing you're going to need to book will be your park reservation. So once you've booked your park tickets, which we did alongside booking our holiday, then 100 days before you're due to arrive, you can book your park reservations. You do this through the Disney Experience app, which you can download from the App Store, or you can do it on the website by logging in with the details that you were given when you booked your trip. Of our 14 days, we have decided to go through on a cycle of through each of the 4 parks. So we're going to do each of the 4 parks and then do each of the 4 parks again. Now in total, I have booked 4 days in the Magic Kingdom, 4 days in Epcot, 4 days in Hollywood Studios, but only 2 days in the Animal Kingdom. This is because this is the park that, having looked through all the attractions, I believe that my little ones are going to be interested in least. It's possible that I'm wrong, and when we get there, we'll love Animal Kingdom the most and we'll want to spend more time there. If that's the case, then I guess I'll have to see if there's any availability and swap some of the days around. But that's kind of my initial gut reaction, having looked in great detail at vlogs and the list of attractions and things that are available in each park. So let me know in the comments, which is your favourite Disney park? If you had 14 days of tickets, how would you distribute those 14 days? Which parks would you go to more? Which parks would you go to least? I'd love to hear your thoughts. The next thing you need to do, and I did find this a little bit overwhelming if I'm honest, and that's your dining reservations 60 days out. So for this, there were some dining reservations I was really keen to get because my children were really excited to go to those places. So specifically the Be Our Guest restaurant. My daughter Bella is obsessed with Beauty and the Beast. Meeting Belle on the cruise was the highlight of her life so far, I'm pretty sure. So she really wants to go there. Zara is obsessed with Cinderella, and inside the castle is Cinderella's royal table. So I have booked that. Now, of the restaurants that I booked, and I've booked quite a few obviously because we're going to be there for a while, Cinderella's royal table is the only one that they asked me to pay for in advance. So all the others I have to book in advance, but as long as I give the required notice period, I could cancel or change those reservations. Cinderella's royal table and Be Our Guest, actually, even 60 days out, had reasonably limited availability. So I'm really glad I've made those reservations. The other places that my children want to eat, William really wants to eat in the Ogre's Cantina. There wasn't any availability for reserving that. I believe that's more like just a rock up and eat kind of place. We definitely want to do Eating Around the World Showcase. You don't have to book that. I have booked one night to eat in the Crystal Palace, which overlooks the Disney Castle. I think that'll be really lovely. I have booked the Sci-Fi restaurant, which looks fantastic, in Hollywood Studios, where all of the tables are like drive-in 50s cars and it looks absolutely stunning. I have booked Hollywood and Vine and a handful of others. I just kind of figured that done was better than perfect, and as overwhelmed as I was, and I was suffering a little bit from paralysis by analysis and just feeling so overwhelmed by the whole thing that I wasn't booking anything, I realised I just needed to book something. So we had a handful of reservations for places we really wanted to go. If you've got any recommendations for dining reservations for places we absolutely must go, then let me know in the comments and I will see if I can squeeze those into our trip. The next thing you need to organise would be any proof of disability. Now, as I understand it, Disney doesn't require proof of disability for things like autism for their disability access scheme. However, I am going to take the proof just in case there's any issues, because whenever we go anywhere in the UK, obviously you have to prove these things. Now, I'm not sure if it's a legislation thing or a Disney policy. You don't, as I understand it, have to prove it when you're there. But for my own peace of mind, I am going to take those printouts. I'm printing out everything else. What's another few pieces of paper? I've already got all the details for the flights, the accommodation, all the vaccination proof, all that stuff in our kind of holiday packet. I'm going to pop our proof of disability stuff in there too, so that we can apply for the disability access scheme, so that my children with autism who struggle with queuing can have some help with that. I will include all of the information in these vlogs. These vlogs are going to be so detailed. If you caught my Disney Magic at Sea series, you'll know that I shared all the magic, but I did really try and share lots of information too. I tried to share in the vlogs the information that I wish someone had told me before our trip. So these holiday vlogs hopefully will be super entertaining for you guys, but also will be full of all of the information that you are going to need about the parks, about the information about traveling with small children, because again, a lot of the vlogs are really entertaining and full of information, but a lot of them don't have people traveling with children. A lot of them are adult only trips. So I'm going to make sure to include all of the information about height restrictions for things, about what's suitable for which age groups, about the help available for people with autism or other additional needs. So don't forget to turn on bell notifications so you don't miss any of it. So before you travel to the States, you're going to need to contact your credit card provider and your bank and make sure that they know you're going out the country and it's not someone trying to commit fraud in another country with your card. I know this has happened to so many people, so just make sure you notify your card providers so when you're spending on them, the transactions are allowed through. Make sure that you've got some dollars on you. We are going to try and sort of stay contactless as much as possible. We will make sure we do have some dollars with us as well. Check with your mobile phone provider about any international roaming and things. Make sure that your phone is set up for that so you're not stuck when you're out there with no phone coverage. You're going to need to organise your outfit. Now I have got a whole outfit planning video for Florida as well as the one that I did for the Disney cruise too if you're looking for some ideas. So I'm not going to talk about specifically what exactly you need to pack in this video, but you can check out the outfit planning videos. There is a carry-on specific video for which things you need to take in your carry-on and another pack with me video that will show you everything that we are taking and how I'm packing for Florida. But you are going to need to, before you even get into packing, organise your luggage. Now with British Airways, and obviously it's going to be different depending on which airline you're flying with, whether you're flying economy class or first class or whatever, so check with your airline provider, but I'm going to share with you the luggage allowance that we have been given for our specific flights. So for carry-on luggage, we are allowed one cabin bag and one handbag. For cabin bags, we have these cases. I've actually got 4 of these. We were going to take 6, but then I thought actually it's going to be a lot to manage. So we've got 4 of these cabin bags. I'm planning to take these largely empty for the way there, and we can put our winter coats in them when we get there, and then anything we buy can go into these cabin bags. But again, tune into what we're taking in the carry-on for more information about exactly what's going in the cases. So this is a small case and fits within the parameters allowed for the carry-on cabin bag luggage for British Airways. There are also restrictions on the size that your handbag can be, and I will be taking a Loungefly bag as my handbag, as will my children, so they will each be carrying a handbag sized bag too. Then for check-in luggage, we are each allowed 1 case. There will be additional charges for extra cases if that's what we need to do. So check with your airline provider to see exactly what the allowance is for both size and weight for your specific flight. One of the final things you need to organise before you leave will be your packing. So I like to try and start putting things away and in the cases, not packed properly, just sort of slung in the cases out of the way so people don't wear them or lose them. So when it comes to actually packing, most of the stuff is sort of in the right area at least. I don't have to go hunting for too much of it. Now we're obviously travelling in our winter and going into, I guess it's Florida's winter, but for us Brits, we're going to think it's pretty warm. I think it's going to be highs of about 21 degrees, which for us is really nice temperature. So we'll be wearing mostly summery clothes, and obviously at the moment we're wearing mostly wintry clothes back home. So I'm just putting everything that we need to take that we will be wearing out there, just kind of hiding it in the cases so it is there ready for me to pack. Make sure you are subscribed with bell notifications on for the pack with me video as soon as that goes live. Next thing you're going to need to organise is masks. You're going to need a lot of masks. Now this kind of comes under packing, but I felt it was worth mentioning in this video because on the flight and in Disney and on any transportation in America for that matter, everyone over the age of 2 is required to wear a face covering, and there are no exemptions for autism. I know this is something that my children may struggle with a little. We have been practicing wearing masks at home, but really it is the only way to get to go to Disney at the moment. Which brings me to what I need to discuss. I said I'd address this, I'm going to discuss it now. So many people have said, why don't you just cancel and go again when this is all calmed down? Don't you want to go when there aren't any masks and the children don't have to wear masks in Disney? Is it worth going with all these restrictions? Is it safe? Are you still going? Are you scared? Are you worried it's going to be cancelled? Now, the truth is I have lost a lot of night's sleep over this. I have worried and worried about it. And I've realised that worrying is not actually doing me any good. Now, obviously, we've got a lot of money invested in the trip. Money that we will potentially lose if we choose to cancel it. There's always a risk that the trip gets cancelled, and if that happens and that's out of our hands, then so be it. Am I sorry I booked it? No. Well, I've wanted to do it since my eldest was born, if I'm honest, and he's 17 now. It's not something we've been in a position to do until now. This is a family holiday I really wanted to do before he leaves home, so this potentially may be our very last family holiday altogether. I also want to go while the little ones are little enough to really enjoy the magic to the max. I mean, everyone loves Disney at any age, but you know, there is a certain magic about it when you're little. Would I rather wait until masks are gone? In an ideal world, yes, but if I'm honest, I'm really scared that if we don't go now, if I wait until all this is properly gone and over, then all of my children will have grown up and left home. The optimist in me hopes that everything calms down very soon. But being realistic, even if things calm down and we get to learn to live with this, maybe masks are going to be in play in Disney for a long time. Who knows? I don't know. I mean, everything's been so crazy the last few years. You can't really predict the future at the moment, can you? Am I worried about going from a safety point of view? I feel like we've done all we can. We're vaccinated, we've had our boosters. I had COVID and I was pretty poorly with it. I did make a video on my other channel describing my symptoms. Even though it was considered mild COVID, I was pretty poorly. My husband and my teenager had it with no symptoms at all. So this was before we were all vaccinated, before the vaccination was offered. So we've had COVID, we've recovered from it, we've been vaccinated, we've been boosted, we're going to do all the following the guidelines and wearing the masks and things. So I'm not too worried about it like I used to worry before from a safety point of view, now that all that's in place. Is it a worry that we get stuck somewhere? Of course it is. I feel that this is something that my children are so excited for, and I feel like if we procrastinate it much longer, we may end up just in a very similar position to how we are now, which is very sad, but that's how I feel, that we just need to go for it. And if we're able to go, fantastic, and if it gets cancelled, then that's a shame, but that's how it is. So with that being said, I'm keeping everything crossed, and I want you guys to keep everything crossed for us as well, that this can go ahead. I can't wait to take my children to the magic and share the vlogs with you as soon as we get back. I'm going to really try and capture it all, so there'll be really detailed vlog series coming your way. I'd love to have you as a subscriber. Don't forget to turn on those bell notifications so you don't miss any of it. There are lots more videos on screen for you to choose from. Pick one of those and I shall see you guys over there. Bye.